Did you hear that? Sorry. If you're somebody who owns a Comandante C40 hand grinder, you might be interested in what we're going to talk about today, and that is the Motordante. Now, what is the Motordante, you might ask? You're not asking that. This is basically an electric motor attachment for the Comandante, so that essentially means that you're no longer going to be grinding by hand, and this takes care of the grinding part for you. It has a very solid build, has a aluminum body, plastic hopper that is detachable, which goes on top. Feels a bit flimsy and cheap, but that's okay. But the body is quite heavy. I think it's around 0.7 grams. It's almost a kilogram. It's quite hefty, feels nice, very smooth. And you might have noticed that I already have a few scratches on here. And we will talk about why that is later on. You attach it to the top of your grinder, just like so. The grinder's motor has an RPM of anywhere from 80 to 98 RPM, so that's rotations per minute. And also, it comes with a second hopper in the packaging. It comes with a power adapter as well, which has a two-face plug, just suitable for European sockets. But since I'm in Dubai, I use a three-face power adapter, and that does the job. I'll put down the link for the voltage details and everything down in the description below, if you're curious about that. It also comes in this very nice looking packaging. So on the packaging you have a QR code to access the user manual. That was just the overview for this. Now let's talk about how my experience has been, what I particularly like, what I particularly don't like so much about the Motordante. Talk about the things that I like so far. So especially if you're somebody who grinds coffee early in the morning, first thing when you wake up, you know how annoying of a task that is. So this really does make that easier. It takes away that element completely out of the equation. So that's one great thing. It's great for when I have to grind for espresso, because grinding for espresso is particularly hard since you're at a finer setting. That means you require a lot more pressure, and that takes a lot longer. So that's a good thing. And if you're somebody who's making espresso at home or is grinding at much finer settings with your Comandante, this really does help take away that frustration of having to grind for like a minute or so. Besides that, it has a very, very nice build, very good quality. It just feels good. It has a nice aluminum body, very good finish, and could not be happier with that. And also, it has a soft start and soft stop feature. So basically, it's going to ease into its average RPM or average speed. So the first 2 seconds, it's slowly starting, and then it goes to its normal or full rotations. Same goes with stopping. It comes to a soft start, and that is made so that it's better for your burrs and just your grinder in general. Now let's talk about some of the things that I don't like. You might have figured it out. It's the fact that it's not firmly clipping on or anything onto your Comandante. There's a higher likeliness that it will fall, especially given that the base of the Comandante isn't too big. So that's really setting you up for a potential just fall with your grinder and the Motordante. Zark from the future here. So I forgot to mention this in the video, but Motordante is also working on a stand for the Motordante and Comandante combination. So this will basically just hold up the grinder, and there won't be chances of you holding it from the top and the grinder falling from underneath, and it'll just be a much better setup this way. So that will somewhat mitigate the issue of it falling over, just the general frustration of always having to pick it up, unscrew the bottom. Yeah, that's it. Back to Zark in the past. With the scratches, you can see that it has fallen. plenty of times because I'm just generally a clumsy person. And also when I pick it up, sometimes I accidentally grab it from the top, which means that it slips from the bottom. And thankfully the Comandante has a very sturdy build as well, and the glass isn't really thin or sensitive, so that saved me. But if you're a clumsy person, you might have to be careful about that. So that's one big downside. They suggest that you're supposed to load the hopper one bean at a time, and you're not supposed to load it all at once or have it completely loaded and then turn it on. So that kind of takes away from the aspect of multitasking, because you ideally want to just load it up, press a button, and while it's going at it, you're just setting up your other brewing stuff to start brewing. It sort of feels counterintuitive. If you're just sitting there putting in beans one at a time, that really does make it a longer and much more tedious frustrating process. So that's one thing that I'm not too sure about, and although I have ground both ways, I haven't noticed a huge difference in the grind quality and the resulting brew and the taste of it, but I'm sure there's something behind it. The third thing is that it isn't too fast. The RPM is fairly slow, and for example, when I was grinding by hand, I was grinding 12 grams for a filter coffee, and the Comandante was adjusted around 23 clicks or 46 clicks with the red clicks axle. I got a time of 35 seconds, and when I instead decided to grind it by hand, I was getting a time of 30 seconds. I really wish that it was faster. That would result in just my total brew process and coffee making process being shortened. That would be nice. That's something you might want to look out for. Now, another interesting observation I made was differences in RPM will lead to a difference in just how fine or coarse the particles will be. And I think I'll cover this in another video, but I think this was very interesting. So I did a small experiment where I ground by hand and with the Motordante, and I made a filter brew. And the difference in brew time was significant. When I was brewing with the grounds ground by the Motordante, I got a total brew time of around 2 minutes 35 to 40 seconds. But at the same grind setting, when I ground by hand, I was getting a brew time of around 2 minutes 10 seconds or 15 seconds, which is much lesser. And I'm not sure why that's happening. Somebody on my Instagram actually commented about that. They also noticed that differences in RPM translate into differences in how fine or coarse it is. It might have to do because of popcorning. When speeds are faster, there's more popcorning, and that results in different kind of grind that you get. But then again, I'm not sure. This is all just speculation and theorizing, and I think that's interesting. I think I'll make a video about this specifically. If you do end up getting a Motordante, your settings for dialing in, whether it be filter or for espresso, is going to be very different from your settings that you would generally use when hand grinding. Also, another thing is that it's sort of expensive. This cost me 175 euros. And then include shipping, because I'm also all the way in Dubai, and this is being shipped all the way from Belgium. So that adds up and becomes sort of expensive. So that's another thing you probably want to think about if you want to get this. I do wish it was a bit cheaper, but that's fine. You're getting a quality product that's well built. I haven't seen any flaws as far as what they've promised. It's working totally fine. It's been a bit more than a month, so I'm happy with it. So who is this for? If you already have a Comandante and you were looking to upgrade that setup and motorize it because you're annoyed and frustrated with having to always grind by hand, you might want to get this. Then again, you have to think about when you're brewing and whether you're in a hurry or not, or you prefer doing other things while your beans grind. It's a complex decision, and you might have to take all those factors into consideration for yourself. Who probably shouldn't get this is somebody who doesn't have a Comandante and is already considering getting one and is also thinking about getting the Motordante. So that's a pretty big investment altogether. If I were in your place, I would probably just go ahead and buy a niche 0 or something, add a bit more money and get that, because then you have a fantastic setup and you don't have to worry about, putting in beans one at a time. And You can grind for filter and espresso both without any problems, and it's going to be much quicker. All of that jazz. I'm quite happy with this. I think it's a great product. I think what's even more fascinating is the story behind this. I was really amused by it and I liked it. And I think this is a fantastic product. It's very well made for its, you know, first edition, I guess. That's all that today's video has to offer. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you had a good time watching this. So yeah, that's it. Hope you have a great day. Take care, stay safe, don't get killed. Thanks, bye. Peace.